Hello and a very good evening to you from London. This is Arise News. I'm Simon Pusey and welcome to the Global Sports Report. Football rapist row. Now a top manager calls for Ched Evans to be given a second chance. Plus, simply the best, Yaya Toure wins African Player of the Year for a record 4th time. Boston is chosen as the USA's candidate city for the 2024 Olympics. And the only way is up, side down, as the world's top aerial skiers do battle. Hello from Global Sports Report. In the next half an hour, we'll have all the results that matter from around the world, and we'll also be meeting our guest, the publisher and sports analyst Shoggy Tosh. And we should say a very special thank you to Shoggy for coming in, because today is his birthday, as he's been telling anyone who'll listen. But before we hear from the birthday boy, let's bring you the sports stories from around the world. And we'll start with the continuing fallout from the Ched Evans saga. This time it's the Hull City boss, Steve Bruce, who has waded into the controversy. The Tigers manager questioning the rape conviction that was given to the footballer. He says the striker should be allowed to play football again, adding, when you look at the case and the evidence, then certainly Ched has got a case. It follows the Professional Footballers Association chief Gordon Taylor's apology for comparing the situation to the Hillsborough tragedy, where 96 people died. Meanwhile, the Football Association say they may change their rules after admitting they are powerless to intervene in the future of the convicted rapist. The 26-year-old was released from prison in October after serving half of a 5-year sentence. And in the last few hours, Oldham Athletics director Barry Owen has resigned as chairman of the club's trust after 12 years. Now, Australia have kicked off the Asian Cup, which they are hosting, of course, in emphatic style by beating Kuwait 4-1. The teams walked out in front of 30,000 spectators at the rectangular stadium. But the Socceroos did not start well. This isn't a great corner, but it's not dealt with, and it's headed in at the front post by Hussein Fadhel, who wheels away in celebration. The entire team dropping to the pitch to pray after that went in. 1-0 up they are there, but their lead was short-lived. The Aussies' talisman, Tim Cahill, equalising in the 33rd minute before this cross was met by the head of Massimo Luongo, putting the home side ahead 2 minutes before the break. And after half-time it was 3. This foul in the box, leading to a penalty. The captain, Miel Jedinak, coolly putting it away. The final goal of the night coming from James Troyes' shot, which squeezes in at the front post. 4-1, the final score in Melbourne. Now, the Ivory Coast midfielder Yaya Toure has not only been banging goals for fun at Manchester City recently, but he's also been named as the African Footballer of the Year for a record time. The 31-year-old, here walking up to receive his award in Lagos in Nigeria, was nominated after playing a pivotal role in the winning of the Premier League and the League Cup last season. He also helped the Ivory Coast qualify for the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations. He's also scored 6 goals in his last 9 games for City this season. And if you don't think he looks that excited about it, it's probably because he's now won the award a record 4 times in a row. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Asisat Oshoala won the Women's Player of the Year award, having scored the most goals in last year's Women's World Cup. To cricket and South Africa, where the Proteas lost the first of their 2020 series against the West Indies. The game in Cape Town saw them set the visitors a target of 166, which they passed with 4 balls and 4 wickets to spare. Chris Gale, the pick of the batsman, hitting 77. Meanwhile, in Sydney, Australia are currently on 251 for 6 in their second innings of the 4th test against India, giving them a lead of 348 before rain stopped play at the end of day 4. That match notable for Aussie skipper Steve Smith, beating Don Bradman's record for the most runs scored in a test series against India. The Aussie captain hit 71 runs off 70 balls to pass Bradman's 1947-48 record of 715. Ice hockey now, and 7 goals from 7 different players gave the St. Louis Blues a 7-2 win over San Jose Sharks. We joined this one in the first period at the Scottrade Centre, with the Sharks already 2-1 up, and soon it's 3-1. Paul Stastny scoring the power play goal. San Jose then extended their lead in the second period. Yaden Schwartz with the pass to Yuri Letterer, who makes it 4-2. And it was TJ Oshie who got the 5th, 7-2 the final score, although despite the score, they stay in 3rd place in the Central Division. Let's move to tennis now, in the Hopman Cup, where France were up against Poland in the semi-finals of the round-robin tournament, and there was a particularly emotional game in Perth between Elise Cornet and Agnieszka Radwanska following the recent attacks in Paris. French sportsmen and women have been showing their solidarity to the Je suis Charlie movement. This was Elise Cornet's tribute, pointing to the words on her bag ahead of her game with Agnieszka Radwanska. And she was in great form, serving here in the 6th game of the first set, forcing the Pole to the back of the court before finishing her off with that slam up at the net. Despite dropping 6 games in a row to lose the second set, Cornet was too good. A great return of serve here, putting her in control of the point. And once again, her touch up at the net wins it for the 24-year-old, giving her the chance of a break. The world number 5 didn't give up though, Radwanska digging in on every point, but Cornet was ultimately too strong, winning the third and final set 7-5, carving out the opportunity and then taking it with this powerful forehand down the line. So France went 1-0 up, but the smiles of joy were short-lived. Benoit Paire wasn't up to the challenge of Jerzy Janowicz, the Pole winning the first set 6-4, then running around this shot to take the second set with this cross-court forehand. And he then teamed up with Radwanska to take on Cornet and Paire in the mixed doubles. This unreturned body shot giving Poland a place in Saturday's final of the round-robin mixed team event against the United States. Well, I'm joined now by the publisher Shoggy Tosh, and it is still his birthday, isn't it, Shoggy? Thanks for coming in on your birthday. Let's start by talking Yaya Toure. He won the African Player of the Year award. Was he right to do so, in your opinion? Not really, but I mean, he got 175 points, and I don't want to, cut down what he's achieved. Obviously, he had a very good season last season. Didn't do too well for Côte d'Ivoire. But he's won it 4 times in a row, as we all know. He got 175 points, and obviously the way they do the voting is strictly by coaches. And being a member of the journalists accredited to CAF, I was able to see, the way they voted, and you saw a little pattern of like most of the French countries obviously voting for him, and also because he plays in the Premiership, especially back in Africa, and the coaches, there's a lot of focus on the Premiership. So if you're playing, for instance, like maybe at times La Liga or the French League, you don't have that, weight. But not taking anything from what he has achieved, he had a very good season. I think Enyeama deserved it a little bit. But you know that normally for a keeper to win it or a defender, you have to actually have an outstanding year, and then maybe an attacker or midfielder, attacking midfielder, have like an average year before you can win it. So the stacks were built against Enyeama. Absolutely. You said he had a good year. He had a bit of a weird year, in my opinion, last year, because it obviously started on a high. He, I think, scored the record number of goals for a midfielder, 20 with Lampard. Yeah. And they obviously won the Premiership. And then he had that whole birthday cake saga, where it was his birthday. He apparently didn't get a cake. And then he said he did get a cake, but they disrespected him. They didn't shake his hand on his birthday. He threatened to leave. Yeah. Then he dropped, his form sort of dropped away. The death of his brother, obviously, tragically, and that had an effect. And now he's scoring again. He scored, I think, 6 and 8. So it's been a bit of a strange year for him. What do you think when, he's a big player for Manchester City, obviously. He's gone away to the Africa Cup of Nations. How badly do you think they'll miss him? They'll miss him because he brings something different. Obviously, he leaves back that defensive, gap out. So at times, even though when he was at Barcelona, he had more responsibilities of defending. But with Manchester City, he tends to go forward a little bit and then leave the back open a little bit. And you'd have noticed that, even in the Champions League, he got to a point that he looked like a luxury player. So whenever he plays, at times, teams capitalize on that. But all the same, they'll miss him. He's a big player. And yes, as you said, he had a little bit of up and down. But even Enyeama as well, because Nigeria didn't qualify for the Nations Cup, so he had a little down as well. And even Pierre, the Gabon player, he had a very good season for his club, but didn't have a good season with his country. So I think in a way he deserved it, There we go. Congrats. There we go. Yeah, a lot of people saying Enyeama and saying he had a good World Cup when Nigeria didn't have a good World Cup. He was really sort of the only good player for them. There's some big games this weekend in the Premiership. Chelsea against Newcastle, of course. Everton taking on Manchester City. Do you see both those two top sides beating the opposition? I do, but as we know nowadays, the Premiership is like unpredictable. You just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the other leg that the other the match that Chelsea played with Newcastle. No one knew that Newcastle would beat Chelsea. And Krul is back as well for Newcastle. So that'll be interesting to see how he fit in, as a keeper of Newcastle. And Chelsea doesn't have any injury concerns at all, so it'll be interesting to see. But Newcastle, they miss obviously a couple of African players, and it'll be interesting to see how they'll cope. And with Everton as well,
they don't have a good record. They're not playing very well at the moment.
Really
and
bad now,
yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there as well.
Absolutely. A month ago, Chelsea was 6 points ahead of Manchester City. Now they're level, not just on points, they're level on goal difference, everything. I mean, how's that happened, and how do you see it going? Who's going to win this league?
It's quite interesting. Like a few weeks ago, everyone was like just singing like, it would be Chelsea. But it shows you the strength of Premiership. You just can't like really predict it. I think Chelsea might pip it, but again, it's going to be tough. I think the Champions League will also play a huge part. So Man City is playing Barcelona. So obviously if Chelsea goes a little bit further, then how do they balance the squad and stuff like that? Because you can see that obviously some of the players are getting a little bit tired back from the World Cup, and then obviously no winter break and what have you. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I think Chelsea might just pip it. On
Sunday, Arsenal are up against Stoke, and Arsene Wenger spoke ahead of the game in the press conference about Szczesny, his goalkeeper, obviously, who was reportedly fined £20,000 after being caught smoking in the dressing room at St Mary's after their loss against Southampton. Let's just have a little listen to what he had to say.
Okay. Ideally, you want everybody to behave in a perfect way. And of course, I think I like personally Wojciech as a person. When he makes a mistake, he stands up for it, and on that front, I think he has as well contributed a lot to the good image of Asian Football Club, and I think he's a guy who learns from his mistakes.
Arsenal, not a great record in the smoking stakes recently. Those pictures of Jack Wilshere, I think, just after the World Cup, having a cigarette in a swimming pool. What do you think about Szczesny? Do you think he'll start tomorrow? Because Wenger hasn't confirmed or denied that he will or won't, and he's also not been in great form recently. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he'll start. Wenger obviously likes him, and he likes standing by his players. Even if the word is against the players, that's Wenger's style. He likes, believing in the players that he has, and it's quite interesting because a lot of times from the outside, at times you don't know. You see a surprise result and you're wondering, oh, what happened? But there's a lot of things that goes behind the scenes, and sometimes it leaks out, and then we see the reasons of probably why a team is losing or whatever, or maybe a little bit of a downer in the team spirit and what have you. I noticed the way, after he considered one of the goals, the way he grabbed his bottle and he was just drinking, it just looked strange. And when I heard the report, like he was smoking, it was quite interesting. But I like the way Wenger handled it. It was like, oh, what is in the dressing room remains in the dressing room, and what have you. I think he'll start. Arsenal, they don't like playing Stoke, so it'll be quite interesting to see.
Yeah, well, they lost 3-2 last game, obviously, but that was at Stoke, so, and they don't seem to like that ground, the Potters, anyway. Yeah. Thank you very much. On your birthday, Shoggy, thank you very much. We'll return in a few minutes' time. We're going to take a very quick break now, but coming up, we've got marathon running news, cycling and football. Plus, could these cars be about to revolutionise motorsport forever? And in the next minute or so, can you answer this quick quiz question? How long has Sepp Blatter been president of FIFA? Is it A, 14 years, B, 15 years, C, 16 years, or my own personal one, D, 150 years? The answer to that question when we come back.
The best way to predict the future is to create it. There's a special breed of achievers out there that are called tomorrow's people, the highly creative ones who live in the future. They imagine what will be and strive to make it happen. They're bold. They refuse to wait for the future. Tomorrow bends and conforms to their ideas. At Access Bank, we share the same sentiments. We've been able to grow our bank to become a leading player in Nigeria with a strong presence across the continent, adopting best practice in everything we do. Our mantra for success is simple: speed, service, and security. Those who shape tomorrow strive for and demand perfection. At Access Bank, our service culture of speedy response and drive for excellence is the blueprint for creating customer experiences that will echo for generations. Come, let's work together and take tomorrow.
Welcome back to Global Sports Report from Arise News. I'm Simon Pusey. In a minute, we'll be rejoining our guest, whose birthday it is, Shoggy Tosh. But first, before the break, we asked you this question, if you knew the answer to this. For how long has our good friend Sepp Blatter been president of FIFA? Is it A, 14 years, B, 15 years, or C, 16 years? And the answer is, of course, C, 16 years. He was elected in June 1998 to succeed Yaya Toure after first joining FIFA in 1975 as technical director. Well, let's stay with FIFA and Sepp Blatter as we bring you some more of the sporting stories making headlines around the world, because he has just received powerful backing from Asia in his bid to be re-elected as president for the 5th time. It's a blow to Prince Ali bin Al Hussein, who has launched his own bid to take over the leadership of FIFA. But the president of the Olympic Council of Asia says Blatter deserves their support.
Do you think Blatter deserves another term?
I think yes. He should. And also in AFC General Assembly, we had in Kuala Lumpur before in 2013, and last General Assembly was in Sao Paulo. Both of them, we decide in General Assembly to vote for Blatter. So I think now Prince Ali, he have to consider that, and he have to think about this matter a lot.
Now, Kenya's athletics boss says doping in the sport, as amongst his country's athletes, is even worse than the AIDS problem. The sports president, Isaiah Kiplagat, has responded to criticism that he hasn't done enough to root out the cheat. Meanwhile, Kenya's top 2 marathon runners are set to battle it out in London in April. Wilson Kipsang and Dennis Kimetto will go head-to-head for the first time over the marathon distance. Kimetto seized the world record from Kipsang last year, becoming the first person to run under 2 hours and 3 minutes. To America now, where Boston has been selected as the USA's candidate city that will bid for the 2024 Summer Olympic Games. Boston has never hosted an Olympic Games and was unveiled as the surprise pick over 2-time hosts Los Angeles, San Francisco and Washington. The decision followed more than 1 round of voting before the Boston bid eventually received the unanimous endorsement. The United States has not hosted a Summer Games since the 1996 Atlanta Olympics.
This is the start of the race. This is where it begins. There will be significant opportunities for all of us to engage in a very robust and thorough debate about what we can bring to this opportunity, the innovation we can bring, the public-private partnerships we can bring, and the opportunity we can bring to make Massachusetts and Boston a shining example of what this country can do as its representative to this larger competition.
Boxing news now, and Britain's Carl Froch says he's close to a deal to fight Julio Chavez Jr. in the United States. Froch, the WBA and IBF super middleweight champion, hopes the fight will take place in Las Vegas later this year. He says he will retire if the fight does not take place. Now, China and the United States took the top spots at the Freestyle Skiing World Cup aerials a little earlier. China's Chi Guangpu took the men's event, his final jump, a triple flip with 5 full rotations, leaving him nearly 10 points ahead of Mac Bohannon of the United States, who came second. In the women's event, Ashley Caldwell of the US triumphed with her final jump of the competition, forcing her teammate Kylie McKinnon into second place.
I'm really excited. I did 2 triple twisting triples. I'm the 3rd girl ever in the history of our sport to do that, so obviously really, really stoked. And I landed them. I didn't ski them out exactly how I wanted to, but always room for improvement, and that's what I'm planning on doing in Austria.
Cycling now, and Alejandro Valverde and Neo Quintana are amongst Movistar's Tour de France challenge this year. The Movistar team will begin the season in the People's Choice Classic in Australia and the Tour de San Luis in Argentina. They had 34 race wins last year after covering more than 300,000 kilometres during the season, enough to travel 8 times around the world. Police in Chile are interviewing 2 of the Dakar Rally's drivers after it was claimed they defaced a national heritage site. The 2 drivers at the centre of the controversy have been named as Matteo Casuccio of Italy and Kees Koelen of the Netherlands. They are alleged to have driven over a historic route that had been declared out of bounds by the country's National Monuments Board. It was a pathway used by Chilean soldiers during the 19th war in the Pacific with Peru. The Formula E boss Alejandro Agag says he plans to convert skeptics and help electric vehicles shrug off an image problem after Formula One driver Sebastian Vettel snubbed the racing series. The 4-time world champion described the Formula E series as cheese, whatever that means, but the Spanish chief executive says he has big plans for the sport. Nicola Clifford has this report. Apologies, we seem to have a few technical issues there. I'm joined once again by my guest, Shoggy Tosh. Shoggy, let's talk Sepp Blatter. He keeps going, no one's ever going to dethrone him, this guy. He's like a cockroach, he just lives through everything. The Asian Football Confederation have backed him, the chief saying that they'd promised that they'd stick with him a year ago and that they're just following that through. Are there any other reasons, do you think, for this? Anything that why the Asian member countries would back Blatter and not take on anyone else?
I mean, it shows how strong Blatter is. When you remember Havelange, that was, there before Blatter came on, you have a lot of weight. So there's a lot that goes on. Obviously, FIFA is, a kind of close family. So a lot of times when you have the AFC, the Confederation Cup, or you have the African Nations Cup, you see, obviously, the president coming over, and there's a lot that goes on. So members just feel like, they owe that, allegiance to whoever that is there. And Blatter has been there, as we know, for a good number of years. So there's been that support. And with what is going on in Europe, obviously, they don't really want to, back Blatter. But Africa and Asia is key. So for them to back Blatter, obviously, he's going to have another, from my view, he's going to have another shot at it again.
Do you think a lot of it is about experience? Because he's obviously been in the job, as we heard earlier, 16 years. He's obviously got a big contacts book. Do you think he just knows the right people, knows who to go on side?
Of course, it's politics, and you just need to know how to play the game. And I just want someone else, because, after a while, you just get tired and you just want someone else with fresh ideas. The same thing we were talking about Bernie as well in the Formula 1. You just want someone else to come in and just, give, a new drive. And especially with FIFA having all those issues that they've had, these couple of years. But I don't think anyone's going to upstage Blatter.
Asia is the key block, as you said, isn't it? Because Europe are basically going to go for anyone but Blatter.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone could literally, a baby could rock up and they'll pick him. Whilst Africa is very firmly behind Sepp Blatter, probably partly because of awarding South Africa the World Cup in 2010.
Yeah.
They sort of see him as someone who's sort of taking the World Cup to countries that haven't had it before.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, Asia is really the key block, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and that's how you play the politics as well, because, not taking away anything that Blatter has done. Obviously, he's done a lot, for the game. But those are things that people think of, especially when it gets closer to when you need to seek a new term. It's politics, and you just need to know how to play it. And if you want to contest and you don't have your home support, then what's the point?
Yeah, talking about Africa and talking about FIFA, it's the Africa Cup of Nations that's starting very soon. What are your thoughts ahead of that tournament? Because obviously it's had its problems in terms of the setup of it. It now seems to be OK in place. How do you think it's going to pan out?
It's quite interesting. A lot of injuries. There's always these issues, with the timing, but, Africa kind of, say, this is the time we want to play. They had to obviously reschedule the time to fit in with the World Cup year, but clubs, obviously, they don't like it. But let's not forget that, even the Asian Cup is, going on as well. So a lot of clubs lose their players. But apart from that, if you're an African or if you love African football, it's just a lovely, period, 2 weeks that you can just, see a lot of good football, a lot of physical tackles, a lot of exciting moments, and it'll be quite interesting because at times in, former Nations Cup, at times you have a clear favourite. People are thinking Ivory Coast, will they do it? Will Ghana do it? But you have upsets as well. At times, we had Zambia, just come up from nowhere and win it. And even when Nigeria won it the last edition, no one expected Nigeria to win it. And then Nigeria didn't even qualify for the Nations Cup this time around.
I was going to say, do you think people sort of slightly disappointed that Nigeria didn't qualify? You surely want to see the world champions sort of, giving it a go and trying to reclaim their crown. Or
Yeah, definitely. The African champions, you want them to be there, but that's football. You have to. Years past, the host and the champions always played, but they changed the rules, so you have to actually qualify. And even the CAF president said it would be a pity that Nigeria is not there, but football goes on. There's a lot of countries that you just don't know. Maybe they're going to spring a surprise. It will be quite interesting.
Yeah, how big a distraction was the whole Keshi issue off the pitch for Nigeria? How big a part did that play in them not getting to this tournament?
Yeah, that was a huge distraction. But also there was a lot of issues in the NFF and a lot of African teams. That is where they lag behind. It's just the organisation, the way they prepare, and then the federations as well. There's just a lot of chaos. And as you know, you might have talents, as a lot of countries do, in Africa, but then once your federation is not, in good terms, it just affects the players. The players can feel that. They feel that, something is not right. Players are coming, you don't pay for the airfares, and there's a lot of things that goes on that doesn't motivate the players to give their best. And at times as well, Nigeria winning the Nations Cup, at times as players just feel a little bit cocky, feel like, oh, we can do it. And nowadays, as you see in Europe and all over, if you're not, on point on your day, anyone can just beat you.
Absolutely. Equatorial Guinea obviously hosting it after Morocco pulled out, having originally been disqualified themselves. So it's a bit of a mess there. Let's quickly, very quickly talk about the Olympics. Boston being chosen as America's potential host city. Do you think that would be a good Olympics in Boston?
I think so. I like, America in general. I remember Los Angeles in '84 and Atlanta in '96. They always seem to make it lively, make it different, just the American thing. They just always bring their class. London, we did ours. We did a great thing, but there's just something about America, whatever city, hosts it, they just bring that joy that you see everyone, just joy on their faces and what have you. So it'll be good. It'll be good for you to go to Boston.
Big sports fans out in America, obviously, and Boston has a big sporting heritage.
Yeah.
So, Shoggy, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Happy birthday for the millionth time on this programme. Enjoy your evening. Thank you very much indeed for coming in on this, your special day. Now, let's take a quick look at what's been getting the world's sporting attention on social media recently. And whenever Harry Kane scores for Spurs, fans sing, "Harry Kane, he's one of our own." Well, according to this picture, that hasn't always been the case. Here he is in the bottom left as a 7-year-old junior Arsenal player. This photo taken at a youth tournament in 2001, showing he wasn't always one of their own. We must, however, point out that he did then sign for Tottenham as an 11-year-old, so Spurs fans, you can relax, you can keep singing that song. Now, every night here on Global Sports Report, we like to pick our MVP, or our most valuable sporting person of the day, and today we thought we'd honour the Cardiff chairman, Vincent Tan. Stay with me, for bowing to fans' pressure and changing the colour of the club's strip. The kit, of course, used to be blue, but he then dramatically and very unpopularly switched it to red in 2012. But Tan has now said in a statement that speaking with, of all people, his mother over Christmas, who he says talked to him about the importance of unity and togetherness, helped him to change his mind. Must point out that the away kit will still remain red, so Vincent Tan still keeping that lucky Asian colour of red in the club kit in some form. That is it from us on Global Sports Report here on Arise News. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter and on YouTube, but for now, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.